The thick canopy of Flores Island's jungle filters the sunlight into dappled patterns on the forest floor. You move quietly through the underbrush, spear held loosely in your hand, the air thick with humidity. You're far from the village, searching for rare herbs that grow near the island's volcanic springs. The distant sounds of birds and rustling leaves fill the silence, creating an eerie sense of isolation. As you approach the edge of a small clearing, you pause, sensing something unusual. The clearing is dominated by a large ancient tree, its roots twisting out of the ground like serpents. At the base of the tree, partially hidden by ferns, is a dark, gaping hole. You've heard stories of such places, caves where the little people are said to live, but never expected to find one yourself. Curiosity battles with fear in your heart. Since childhood, you've been warned about the little people, the small, hairy creatures that are more shadow than flesh, quick to steal food and rumored to abduct children. But those stories always seemed like tales to scare the young into behaving. Surely, you think, those were just legends. But as you stand there, something catches your eye. A small figure darts from the shadows of the cave entrance, barely more than a blur. You freeze, breath catching in your throat. The creature is no taller than your waist, covered in matted brown hair, with a hunched posture and long, low-hanging arms. Its face is strange, almost human, but with a wide, flat nose, large eyes that glint in the dim light, and a mouth that seems too big for its small head. The little person tilts its head, watching you with an expression that's almost curious. For a moment, neither of you moves. Then it makes a sound, a soft, high-pitched chatter that echoes through the clearing. The sound is like a mockery of speech, the cadence of words without any of the meaning. A chill runs down your spine. Before you can react, more of the creatures appear, slipping silently from the shadows of the cave. There are 4, then 6, then a dozen, all small, all watching you with those eerie, intelligent eyes. They move with an unnatural quickness, circling you in a way that makes your skin prickle. Your grip on the spear tightens, knuckles turning white. One of the little people, larger than the others though, steps forward. It mimics your grip on the spear, its long fingers curling around an invisible weapon. The others chatter in unison, a sound that reverberates through the forest like a mocking laughter. You realize with a start that they're mimicking you, your stance, your weapon, even the way you breathe. But their eyes hold no malice, only a strange type of curiosity. The larger one takes another step closer, its gaze flicking between you and the spear. Slowly it reaches out a hand, palm up as if asking for something. You hesitate, your mind racing. The creature's eyes hold yours, and an odd sense of calm washes over you. Taking a deep breath, you reach into the pouch at your waist and pull out a handful of dried fruit. The little person's eyes light up, and it makes a soft cooing sound. You toss the fruit gently into the creature's outstretched hand. It sniffs the offering, then devours it with a quick, satisfied gulp. The others begin to chatter excitedly, their eerie mimicry now tinged with what sounds almost like gratitude. The leader makes a clicking sound with its tongue and gestures for the others to step back. They obey, melting into the shadows as quickly as they appeared. The large one gives you a final, searching look before turning and disappearing into the darkness of the cave. For a long moment you stand in the clearing, heart pounding in your chest. Then, with a final glance at the cave, you turn and hurry back into the jungle, mind spinning with what you just witnessed. As you make your way back to the village, the jungle around you seems quieter, more watchful. The stories of the little people were real, you realize, but they aren't the mindless monsters of legend. They're something more, something ancient and mysterious, living on the edge of human understanding. You never speak of your encounter, but you often find yourself returning to that clearing, leaving small offerings of fruit and food near the ancient tree. You encountered an Ebu Gogo. The story of the Ebu Gogo can be found in the folklore of Flores, Indonesia. The Ebu Gogo are a group of human-like creatures, and in the Nage language from Central Flores, the name Ebu Gogo translates roughly to Old Glutton. The Nage of Flores are one of the indigenous people that inhabit that area. They describe the Ebu Gogo as being bipedal, so they walk on two legs, and were even said to be fast runners. One of their defining features is their height. They're reported to mostly be around 5 feet tall on average. They were also said to have wide, flat noses, broad faces with large mouths, as well as having hairy bodies. They were said to murmur in what could only be assumed to be their own language, but they could also mimic things like a parrot. There are also legends about the Ebu Gogo kidnapping human children in hopes of learning how to cook them. Luckily, in these stories, the children always manage to easily outwit them, but the same can't be said for human babies. Babies have no way of defending themselves, so there were some stories of babies being taken and eaten. This means that the Ebu Gogo are clever creatures, but not exactly the wisest sage in the temple. If you were to look up the Ebu Gogo, one of the big things you'll see is that it is almost always paired with the discovery of a new species of human in approximately the same area. The new species was named Homo floresiensis, and many people use the scientific term practically interchangeably with Ebu Gogo. As it stands right now, it isn't confirmed whether the two things are the same or not. All that we know for certain is that the Nage people have stories of the Ebu Gogo, and that we have discovered fossils of this new species of human. To the surprise of many scientists, though, the details that surround the description of the Ebu Gogo seem to neatly match up with the findings of Homo floresiensis. Primarily, its height. There were some issues with the handling of the fossils of this new type of human, but that could be an entire podcast on its own. The main point is agreed on by everyone in academia, and that is that Flores, Indonesia, at some point, was the home to a different species of human. That new species of human was small in stature. Homo floresiensis is 100% real, without a doubt. We just don't know if the Ebu Gogo is. Some scientists do believe that the tales of the Ebu Gogo are a sort of cultural memory that modern humans have passed down of their encounters with Homo floresiensis. I know it sounds nitpicky, but these are the differences that are still in the middle of being hashed out by the academics in this field of study. Another sort of discrepancy that I've seen from people talking about the Ebu Gogo is that it's a singular type of cryptid. Still, all the same features I've mentioned earlier, but just with a woman with large pendulous breasts. I'm not in that camp. I'm more of the belief that it was a group of multiple Ebu Gogo, and the reason that I say that is because the Nage people actually have folklore regarding the murder of all these Ebu Gogo. I'll tell the story and then give my thoughts on potential discrepancies. See, the thing is, no one really likes when something kidnaps their kids and tries to learn how to cook them, or takes their babies and actually eats them. So obviously, the only reasonable course of action is genocide. This quote comes from an article in New Scientist, a popular science magazine based out of London that covers all aspects of science and technology. In the 18th century, villagers gave the Ebu Gogo a gift of palm fiber to make clothes. and once the Ebu Gogo took the fiber into their cave, the villagers threw in a firebrand to set it alight, killing all the occupants. One pair may have fled into the forest. So there are stories of these Ebu Gogo being killed off in the 1700s. What's the issue? Well, the skeletons of Homo floresiensis date back to at least 50,000 years ago. So what group of people were massacred in the 1700s? I don't know. Maybe Homo floresiensis managed to live well into the semi-modern era? I mean, the 1700s, we're talking about Europe being in the Enlightenment at this point. So in the grand scheme of things, it's very recent. We have stories of wildmen, and in this particular region, there are more than a couple tales of little people living in the jungle that are just a little bit different from us. There's a mockumentary named The Cannibal in the Jungle, which was put out in 2015, that's based around the stories of the Ebu Gogo as well as the discovery of Homo floresiensis. You should give it a watch because it's actually pretty entertaining. They do a good job between mixing in the discovery of Homo floresiensis as well as talking about the stories of the Ebu Gogo as well as interviewing actual scientists, and it just really feels real, but keep in mind that it is a mockumentary. If you ever find yourself in Flores, Indonesia, who knows? Maybe you'll run into a long-lost cousin of ours in the Ebu Gogo. Just give them something to eat. I heard they're voracious little people. That concludes this episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you enjoyed it, then like, subscribe, and share the podcast with your friends. This is Myths, History, and D&D, and I hope you tune in next time.